Hello, I'm Dr. Paul Cleveland with Boundary Stone, and what I'd like to talk to you about now is another book that we have available for you. It's our Western Civilization text. And by the way, this is a book that I wrote. It was my first book, and I wrote it under the guidance of Dr. Carson, as I mentioned earlier in another presentation, that Dr. Carson was a mentor of mine. Well, one book that he never got around to writing that he wanted to write was a book on Western civilization. And as he was getting older, he didn't want to put in the work to do that. And so he recruited me, of all people, an economist to do that work. And so I began that project in the latter part of the 1990s and finally finished it and brought it to publication in 2003. And as I got into it, as I was working through it, I don't know if you're like me, but you look out at the world we live in, and it seems like there's just two different views of Western civilization. There's the view of Western civilization that that what we need to do is toss it to the wind. But then our view is that no, Western civilization, that the principles of Western civilization, while never perfectly employed, are very sound, and our students are desperately needing to come to understand what those principles are, where they come from, and how to defend them in a world that's racing away. And so we live in a world where there's just chaos. Some people have referred to it, and I refer to it, as the culture wars. And as a matter of fact, when I wrote the book, my title is Understanding the Modern Culture Wars. Now, I chose that title because if you look at most Western civilization texts, they pretty much follow the chronology of human history. You begin with ancient civilizations, how they operated, what were the principles upon which they were based, the good, the bad, and the ugly in each of those civilizations. And so that's basically the way that I began the study as well, and I'm working through it bit by bit. Well, it seemed to me as I progressed through history that I came to a point in modern history that that chronology, I could have continued with that chronology, but what was happening is society was being fractured by two different radical views of the world. One view of the world was this Judeo-Christian view, this theistic vision that God is our creator. And as our creator, he is sovereign over the universe. He's created the universe. He's put these principles embedded in it, that it's incumbent upon us to understand his principles, the order that he gave to his creation, and that we should live our lives in connection with those principles. And that Western civilization at its best acknowledges that and embraces those principles and then acts upon them. Now, not perfectly, of course, when there's not been such a civilization. But the closer that we get to that, the better off we are. Well, the alternative view is a view of naturalism. The naturalist believes that nature is all there is. And so the naturalist comes kind of in one of two forms. If they acknowledge God, they'll acknowledge sort of the pantheistic God, that that nature is all there is, and God is creation itself, virtually. And then there's more the atheistic, the secularized view of the world that just dispenses with any notion that God is at all, and then begins to move out from there and makes man the measure of all things. Well, this view will take you in a radically different direction. And so beginning to realize that these two views were coming into conflict in the modern age, I kind of departed a little bit from chronology, just moving through history, time period by time period. And I wanted to look at, well, what were the dividing lines? What were the watershed issues that divided one particular point of view from the other point of view? I think it's really important that those dividing lines are understood by our students. If you wish to defend society and civilization that we live in, and Western civilization, you really need to understand where the dividing lines rest, because if you negotiate, if you compromise those, then you'll be ineffective in defending society and civilization, and the secularists will win, and then have been winning. And so we desperately need students today who will come to understand the origins of our society. What are the important principles? What are the right principles upon which we can base a society where we can live at peace with one another, or at least greater peace, instead of a world of chaos? Well, I hope you'll check out Understanding the Modern Culture Wars on our website, boundarystone.org, and see if that's the right material for your student. We believe that it is, and so we'll hope that you will check it out as well. And like all of our other stuff, we have numerous articles and videos and many other things to help you in this world, to understand the world that you live in.